is going on out there, peeps? Okay, we are about 1 day and 8 hours or so, 1 day and 7 hours away from this 3 day conference. I'm looking forward to sitting in and paying attention to what's going on and also recording it so I could bring the news to you so you could see what the plans are for Iraq in the future. Let's hope they have some pretty good information or at least some good Easter eggs. If you get my drift, I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully I'll be able to come back with a lot of exciting news that you guys will appreciate. Okay, so let's keep our fingers crossed because tomorrow is that big day. Real quick, everybody, we have Pimpy's Investment Chat. It's the same name as my YouTube channel. I will leave a link in the description. You could come join us. It's free to do so. We do talk about the Iraqi dinar, the Vietnam dong, Nisera, Jisera, gold, silver, as well as cryptocurrencies and other investments. We have a second group called The Hidden Things in Front of Your Eyes. This covers more current events as well as things that you might consider conspiracy. Did you know that under the Trump administration, here you go, this is a good article, 3,000 elite pedophiles have been arrested, but that's worldwide. That's one of those things that don't get reported a lot in the media, is how many pedophilias have been arrested under the Trump administration, as well as pedophile rings and websites that have been removed. How crazy. Anyways, let's get into what's going on in Iraq. I was reading some other articles that had nothing to do with the economy, but I was interested to see that the military tactics that Al-Qadimi seems to be deploying on pounding ISIS, which is very interesting. So they're talking about putting together some small tactical groups. It's better than a large army. You can see a large army coming from a mile away, but small tactical groups that they feel can take them on. That's going to be good. I know they were doing that with the American soldiers and some coalitions, and we're being very successful at it. So if you break them off in a bunch of tactical groups, yeah, I think that's a pretty good idea. Anyways, let's get into what's happening here in Iran. Iraq. Let me reword that. Iraq. Agreed to include a borrowing. Okay, so in this particular bill that was put forward, look, the parliamentary is agreeing to go ahead and allow some borrowing so that the Ministry of Finance could release salaries for new hires in the Ministry of Education and the directorates and other ministries and institutions. The source said the Parliamentary Financial Committee, in a joint meeting with the Minister of Finance, in the presence of the first Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, announced approval to include draft borrowing law that allows the Ministry of Finance to release the salaries of new hires. Okay, so good. That's good. At least people are going to get paid. Now, here's some interesting things. Al-Qadimi, reforms are continuing and do not retract Rafa, I believe it's pronounced Rafa's file. We have white paper, so you're going to see who this is. On Saturday, the Prime Minister Al-Qadimi confirmed that the total dependence on oil revenues reflects the failure of the previous policies. Can I add in there, not to mention the fact that they ripped off all the money out of the Treasury? I've not heard any more news on that since the first article, so that's not exactly good, but let's keep on. In a statement he made during his visit to the Ministry of Oil and his meeting with the advanced staff at the ministry, which was transmitted by the media, the Iraq oil sector is ancient, and we must work to restore its health. Al-Qadimi also added, it is important for oil revenues to be turned into development projects, and we are working to form the investment fund for future generations. Yeah, that's huge. They need to start doing things besides relying on oil. We talked about that a billion times. We know they need to focus on the agriculture, but now the problem is they're doing good and they're self-reliant, but now you got ISIS over there burning their fields. So they need to form some kind of protection. You know, I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but if I was them, I would probably get a huge chunk of land that you can farm. This may sound crazy, but if these people can't stop destroying and trying to interfere in the sovereignty of Iraq, maybe you build up some fences or something to try to keep people from coming in to destroy your agriculture. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but you got to do something. The Prime Minister considered the total dependence of 95% of the budget on oil revenues as evidence of the failure of the previous policies, stressing by saying, "We are working on maximizing other revenues, as you should." He goes on to explain what they want to do. They want to do economic reform, but that's not the part. Well, let's get to the good stuff. The Prime Minister went on to say there is no retreat from stopping double salaries. So for those you don't know, there were a lot of individuals who were creating fictitious people, and they were getting paid for salaries for those individuals. And so that's part of the corruption. Anyways, the Prime Minister went on to say there is no retreat from stopping double salaries. The detainee of Rafah and other groups to achieve justice, and what has been raised about the state's retreat is not valid. So there was rumors that they were not going to investigate these guys, they were not going to prosecute them, and Al-Kadhimi saying that ain't true. We are going forward with this. We are going to make sure that justice is served. So good. Again, this is something that we're looking for. Let me scroll down here just a little bit more. Where is the other part about the corruption? Oh yeah, during the meeting, the issue of security permits were also discussed, whereby the Prime Minister directed the work in it to be completely transparent and away from the bureaucracy. That is another aspect of corruption, stressing at the same time to fight all forms of corruption as a scourge in the joints of all the states and hinder the reform process in it. So the ISIS terror groups occupy our cities because of corruption. So get a cracker whipping, man. There you go, Al-Kadhimi. That's what we like to hear. So right now it's good lip service, and we know some things are being done. But really what I want to see is some arrests being made on who it is that is responsible for really depleting the treasury, because that's big news. And that also explains why the Parliament was really stressing about not investigating Mahdi before this news was announced. So to me, I think they have both Mahdi as well as members of the Parliament, you're going to find out, have a lot to do with that money missing. Parliamentary finance places a condition on the front of the current in exchange for allowing borrowing to cover the fiscal deficit. So the Finance Committee in the House of Representatives set a condition before the government in exchange for allowing borrowing to cover the fiscal deficit. The committee said in a statement received by Baghdad, the Financial Committee headed by, there you go, the presence of members. We don't need to know all that. Allow it to discuss it. Okay, so the statement said, part of the meeting with chair by the first Deputy Speaker of the House, who welcomed the Minister of Finance, as he stressed that the Parliament is waiting for the government to make real reforms that affect the lives of citizens and do not affect them negatively. One of those things that they could do that might affect them negatively is if they devalue their currency. I know we talked about that in the last video, and I don't know why that was brought up unless somebody's thinking about it, but it doesn't do any good. It causes people to lose faith in Iraqi dinar, and then it has them running back over to the US dollars. We don't want that to happen, so I doubt very much that they're going to devalue the currency at all. The Financial Committee made it clear that the government has many solutions and steps that contribute to increasing the state's resources and providing the budget with large sums other than deducting the salaries of employees. So deducting means taxing is what they're talking about. So other than that, and I agree, there are other steps. Heck, I could think of one right now. How about you change the rate? I know you're thinking it. That's what I'm thinking. Change the rate. Let's make this happen. So it goes on to state all the different laws and all the different things that they talk about in connection with the salaries and the deductions and the whole 9 yards. So again, I don't want to bore you with all that. But for his part, the Alawi gave a detailed explanation of the financial and economical reality that Iraq is going through and the size of the budget deficit and amount required within the law of internal and external borrowing to cross this crisis. The paragraph the Financial Committee added in the borrowing law regarding government's provision, the economic and financial reform paper is very important, and we'll work on it as quickly as possible. We need them to put forward a budget. That's supposed to be done by, I think, no later than next week. Am I right? Yeah, next week. So let's see if they can even get the budget forward. The Iraqi parliament pledges to resume its sessions by order and decides the government's decision to reduce salaries. So again, this is just another article of them talking about whether or not they want to tax people. You know, if you're going through a financial crisis, if you could get away and the government can get away with not taxing the people, I know that's something that Trump wants to do. He wants to do a payroll tax and do away with capital gains tax. It would be a huge bump to both the economy as well as those people. It puts the money back in the hands of people that need it the most, and that would be the citizens. So I think there's a lot of people following steps. So look at here, Al-Kadhimi and Barzani meet to resolve the outstanding issues between Baghdad and Kurdistan. This is good because usually they have delegations that do that, and they seem to be meeting in person. Let's get these things ironed out. We know that when they do get them ironed out, an agreement is finally met, then this is pleasing to our friend over in the United Nations, Miss Blashart, who we are waiting for to say that she's very pleased and tells the United Nations to let's go ahead and restore the sovereignty of Iraq, and then also let's recognize their currency back and remove the restrictions of their currency and allow them to be on an international level. All right, you guys, so it just, look, it's the same stuff that's going on right now. I think I'm going to probably learn a lot more about what's going on in this meeting, this conference that's getting ready to happen. All right, so keep your fingers crossed. I will record it, and I will report back some good stuff as I find it. All right, so far so good. Like I said, ever since Al-Kadhimi's been in office, he seems to be taking all the proper steps. Right now, it's just lip service. Let's see if we can get them actually happening. All right, I'll catch you later. Bye.